difficult. It's really hard, it's really difficult to hit all-time PRs. And if you get behind them and get them fired up, hopefully he hits it today.
This is Mark Belton, Super Training Gym, the strongest gym in the West. We had a Caffeine and Kilos deadlift competition that we all went to, Caffeine and Kilos Invitational. And I'm going to go over some form and technique on some of these deadlifts. You can see this girl here, she squatted down quickly, got in a position quickly, and then came back out of that position quickly. And that's exactly what you want to do on a deadlift. 287.5 pounds, pretty damn impressive. But you want to try to always make sure that you at least try to start with a flat back. I know there's a lot of controversy and people make a big deal about, whether you pull this way or that way. But this girl here, she actually kicked the weight away from her. Very common problem to have. Watch her left hand, which I think is her underhand. As she kicks the weight away from her right at the very start of the lift, right there. And the weight gets out in front of her, making the lift a lot more difficult than necessary. A giant key to a deadlift is to keep the weights very, very close to your body. You'll sometimes see athletes do what looks like a stiff leg deadlift sometimes, and they're able to get away with that sometimes because, again, they keep the weight extremely close to their body. This girl here is doing the best she can to keep that weight close to her, but you can see, even with her attempt, kind of the same thing happened. The weight got pushed away from her. And a way to overcome that is to strengthen your hamstrings and to strengthen your lats, because you need to, and actually your quads too a little bit, because it's a push into the floor and a pull into you, as Ed Cohn has pointed out to us here at Super Training Gym. I've had the luxury of having the greatest deadlifter of all time come into our gym and teach me and Filipino Thunder and Silent Mike how to deadlift. And so we're very thankful to have him come in. And unrelated to Ed Cohn, we have Steffi Cohen, who was not only pulling at this meet, but she came into Super Training Gym as well. And you can see there's just a few errors that happen here with this 419-pound pull. She started in a great position. She's trying to maintain that position as best she can, but you can kind of see the back getting rounded over. And I think one of the key elements to that is we want to try to really pull the slack out of the body, out of the weight. Pull the slack out of the bar before you start your lift. Something to keep in mind when I'm critiquing these lifts. These lifts are 100%, some cases 105, 103% of people's maxes. So there's going to definitely be some form and technique issues that happen when people are going this heavy. That was a very clean lift right there, 276.5 pounds. Remember the key components to a deadlift. Remember what we're trying to do. We're trying to keep our stomach tight. We're trying to get our back flat. We're trying to get our hips lower than our shoulders. And for the men, we're trying not to shit ourselves. And for the ladies, we're trying not to squirt all over the platform. So you hear us here trying here again to set up. I don't really typically like to see lifters set up at the bottom like that and be loose. I like to see people utilize the bar to pull themselves into position and create the tightness that way. To me, she was too loose at the bottom, shifting her feet around and things like that. That's just something that you learn over time. This girl kind of did the same thing. 331-pound lift, very impressive, but not done with very good form. Rounding over severely. How long can you do this for? Not very long. It's a very rounded over back. Not ridiculing this person. This is simply just pointing out. Technique and some flaws that we're seeing with the lift. 331-pound deadlift is very strong and very courageous for her to get up there and do that lift. But what you want to see is progression over a long period of time. Just because somebody lifts something heavy doesn't mean it's great. You want to see somebody continue to make progress. If somebody lifts 300 and the next year they lift 330 and the next year they lift 360 and the next year they lift 400, that's some real progress. The actual weight that they have on the bar, who cares? For all of us, it's all the same. We're all just trying to get better. This is good technique here, and this is a good example of what I just talked about. This is not a monumental deadlift. This is 320 pounds. But the guy is... He's adhering to the form and technique the best he possibly can, trying to keep his back flat, trying to get his legs into it. And the more that you adhere to having good form and good technique, and the more you adhere to trying to be a professional, the more likely it is that you'll end up being the strongest, because those who lift the longest have the best opportunity to be the strongest, as Matt Wenning typically points out. So I think that's good advice for everybody. You want to try to make sure you're lifting as safely as possible and giving yourself the best opportunity to lift the most amount of weight. Now we go way up in weight for Hayden Bowe, 640.35 pounds. Unbelievable pull at only 181 pounds. You're going to notice that a lot of these people are just wearing pants. A lot of these people are wearing gym attire, and it's because this event, there's me filming with my fat face in the background. This event was set up by Caffeine and Kilos, set up by Charlie Zamora. And they didn't want it to be a fun event. They didn't want it to be restricted by, you just wearing a singlet and having your nuts hang out the whole time. And so they just wanted people to come in and lift and have a good time. And I don't see anything wrong with that. So I thought it was a fun event. This is a real bastard of a lift, a real grinder for Hayden, but very strong pull. This guy is a force to be reckoned with. I think he also recently squatted 640 pounds. Look him up on Instagram. Him and his girlfriend are tearing shit up. They're both jacked. They're both super lean, and they're both impressive with their strength. You're not going to always be able to lift the weight so perfectly. Your form and technique are not always going to be completely. They're not always going to be completely flawless, but you're always striving to try to have a flat back. You're always striving to keep your stomach tight. Things are going to come unraveled. Things are going to come unglued as you go for these heavier weights. 607 pound lift right here. Again, as I mentioned earlier, some people like to kind of almost stiff leg the bar up, and he did right there, but he did a great job of keeping the weights close enough to him that he still had a chance to lift the weight, and that's exactly what you want to do. Here comes Ryan Spencer, who's been at Super Training Gym for almost a full decade now, pulling 629 pounds. Ryan only weighs about 165 pounds, so this is a great lift for him. He did it very explosively. The form and technique is right on point, and no surprise because he trains at Super Training Gym in West Sacramento, California, the strongest gym in the West, and so he's got the form and technique down. He's trying to get those lats locked in. He's trying to keep the elbows in tight to his body and trying to get the shoulders to really relax and to elongate as he's pulling the weights. You don't want to have too much space between where your arm is and basically where your hips are, where your belt is. It's a big mistake to have a huge gap between there because that tells me that you're rolled forward and that you're not staying tight enough. Here comes Nsima, another lifter from Super Training Gym who had the heaviest deadlift of the entire day. 722 pounds, 723 pounds, whatever it came out to be. Double overhand grip, hook grip. And it almost just kind of looks like the guy just doesn't really know his own strength yet. Like that lift, just he really blew it up pretty fast. And it almost looks surprised as he's going through the lift. Nsima came into Super Training with a 635-pound deadlift and has nearly increased by 100 pounds. And I know everyone's going to say, steroids. Been the exact same size since he started. He is the natty professor. Whether he's clean or not, we don't know. We don't know what his deal is. I don't know what he does personally, but I don't care either way. But he is the same body weight when he walked through the door. So I guess my point is I don't think anything extra has occurred since he started training at Super Training Gym except for just working on his form and technique. It's nothing magical that we did here at Super Training Gym. It's just him hopping into an environment where we say, oh, yeah, 700-pound deadlifts. We got a couple of those guys in here already. Marcus being one of them, and you're going to see Silent Mike pull 700 pounds for the first time in a little bit after Nsima goes here. Flawless lift. There's really not much to comment on that. Technique is great. Nsima is somebody who loves doing some heavy bent over rows, and he likes to build up his lats, and because of that, because he came in with a bodybuilding background, his back is not going to round severely when he goes to do a heavy deadlift because he has built up a lot of strength in that area over the years. And I think bodybuilding and doing the higher reps can really, you end up seeing a lot of bodybuilders that are able to deadlift pretty well. Here comes Silent Mike with his first deadlift over 700 pounds. And unfortunately, because it's kilos, you're kind of forced to just go right to 705. And so here goes Silent Mike with 705 pounds. Look at those red. He's got the red socks. He's got the red shoes. And by the way, I haven't mentioned the spotter, but what is that guy doing back there? He's like looking right at everybody's ass. Let's see how it goes for here for Silent Mike. Moved pretty damn fast off the floor. Pretty good speed off the floor. Slowed down a little bit as he got towards the top, but still no problem locking it out. He just kind of leaned back. This is a rare case. This doesn't usually happen in powerlifting. I haven't seen it too many times. You don't really see things that surprise you. Mike is somebody who works hard, so I'm not surprised that he got really good results. Not surprised at all by that. He works his ass off. He trains very hard in the gym. Does a lot of exercises on every given day and squats multiple times a week, and he's always working hard. He's always pushing things to the limit. So none of that's a surprise to me. What's a surprise to me is that in training, I don't recall him going over 630 pounds at any one time. I think he might have did a 600-plus pound lift at one point. I actually might even be wrong. He might have only went up to 585 now that I think about it. But he didn't come close to a 700-pound lift the entire time. The only thing he did do was lift with a stiff bar, and he was coming off a back injury, so he's really babying the way that he was deadlifting, and he was just deadlifting with a lot of precision. He was really focusing in on his form and technique rather than really focusing in on how much weight he was lifting, and so I think that was something that contributed to this big, huge deadlift here on this day. His third attempt deadlift was actually 661 pounds, and that was a PR for him on the platform, and that was going to be it for the day. But we said, hey, let's just get you a fourth attempt since it's an unofficial competition anyway. And so they gave us a fourth attempt. Silent Mike ended up with a 705-pound pull, which again was a big surprise because he just didn't touch anything even close to that in training. And congratulations to him. That was an awesome lift, and it's great to see. And now he's screwed because now he has to live up to that 705-pound pull forever. So next time he steps on the platform, all he can do is lift more. Strength is never weakness, and that is it from Super Training Gym. Later.